No, nothing. That's wonderful.
The 18, maybe.
Are we ready, Destiny? Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone out to our regularly planned Planning Commission meeting for October 6, 2022. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance offered by Wendy Willis, if you just want to come up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Wendy. We do have a full Planning Commission quorum today. Do we have any conflicts of interest with any items on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll look for an approval of minutes for the August 4th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.4.
Motion made by Heather. Second. Second by Forrest. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We do have a couple items that are on for public hearings today. So I do want to read the public comment policy and procedure. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to the deputy city recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. And then we'll go on to our administrative items. Item 4.1. The consideration of a plot amendment for the reserve at Sky Ranch, Phase 1. And we'll turn to the staff.
All right, so this is a pretty simple request for the reserve at Sky Ranch. Yeah. Just a reminder kind of where it is located generally. And the applicant is hoping to combine some of these lots after the big parcel to the north is Phase 3, and below it is Phase 1. So when Phase 3 went in, they wanted to combine these lots, the two smaller lots that the arrow is pointing to, and the larger lot beneath it. Just because it kind of makes sense. And there's also a couple irrigation easements that are being moved. Here's a better picture to the left is the current plat. You can see lot 109 there, and the two smaller lots to the north of it. The applicant is just hoping to add those lots to lot 109. None of the other lots' dimensions will be changing, just the lot width of 109. You'll see on the current plat that there is a 20-foot irrigation easement on 108, and that is being changed to lot 107 and lot 109. But both lot 109 and 107 are still owned by the developer and by the applicant, and potential buyers have been informed about those easements and those changes, and the owners of lot 108 have also been are aware of that change. So the current lot met all the A110 zoning requirements, and because it's just getting a little bit bigger, it still would meet those, that lot area and that lot width as well. So staff does recommend approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe that the applicant is here as well.
Great. Any questions for staff? I'll let you have a seat. If the applicant's president wants to come up, just state your name, and then if there's anything in addition you'd like to share.
Yeah, Tim Frice with the Reserve at Sky Ranch. I think it got covered. We just don't want 20 feet of weeds in between those two lots, and so it makes sense just to add it onto that lot. So.
Awesome. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll let you have a seat.
Thanks.
This is open for a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at this time, if there's anyone that would like to make a comment. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at this time and then turn to the Planning Commission for a motion to be made or further discussion.
Makes sense to me.
Yep,
Anybody
looks
else?
good.
That's how I feel.
I'll go ahead and make a motion then to approve item 4.1.
I'll second.
A motion made by Andy, a second by Jackson. We'll call for a vote. Daryl?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. We'll go on to item 4.2, which is also on for a public hearing. And it's consideration for approval of a 4-lot residential subdivision. And we'll turn to city staff.
All right, good evening. So as you mentioned, this is for approval of a minor subdivision, a 4-lot subdivision. It's located off Rose Canyon Road, kind of by Harriman Cove. The subject property is zoned A110. That's a little over 3 acres. What the applicant is proposing is a 4-lot residential subdivision. What he's proposing, it does meet the standards for the A1 zone, including density. He's 4 lots technically. With that acreage, he'd go up to 5 lots, but he's only requesting 4 lots for this subdivision. There are some considerations regarding the development of this site that engineering does have some concerns, I guess. Well, some issues that need to be addressed. So one is the applicant is requesting a deviation to the road standard. That's something that they've requested, and that goes to council for approval. And they're asking for this deviation just due to the improvements that are required along Rose Canyon Road, which requires them to improve that right-of-way, which is about 100 feet. So it would require them to improve about 44 feet in depth, about 300 feet long. So that's going to be up to council whether or not they'll let them deviate from that standard. If they do allow them to deviate from that standard, then they'll have to, make those improvements per council's recommendations. If not, then if they deny the request, then they'll have to construct the road as proposed here to, I'm assuming probably the center line of Rose Canyon Road. And here's the road deviation, the section here they're applying for. Again, due to the alignment or the elevation, I guess the alignment of the bridge that's going to cross from Blade Drive that goes over Midas Creek. At this time, engineering's not certain of that alignment or the elevation of that bridge, so they were asking the applicant to pay for the improvements along that frontage there, have the applicant pay fees in lieu as opposed to having him install them and possibly having them tear out when they do install the bridge connection. Another concern that they had was the proposed detention pond for this site was undersized and does not meet the 80th percentile or the 100-year flood plan. And so there's some minor adjustments that need to be made to this detention pond. Talking engineering, these are very minimal. They may, we're talking about maybe increasing it by 3 or 4 feet is what they're thinking. Nothing more than that. Based off that lot size for lot 4 that it's adjacent to, they could technically move that detention pond 80 feet into that lot, and that lot would still meet the requirements of the zone. So there's a potential that that lot will change after the, as is proposed right now at the moment. But that change should not affect the compliancy of that actual lot. As far as zoning goes, all the lots meet the width and area requirements of the zone and density. Due to the fact that they're on Rose Canyon Road, which is a collector road, they are required to install a 6-foot precast fence along Rose Canyon Road, so just along Rose Canyon there. Based on these recommendations, staff, we do recommend approval based on these conditions. If you guys have any questions for me or for the applicant, yeah, he is here.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time?
My only concern is Blade Drive. It'll be left in an unfinished condition. What's the plan? Just to leave it as weeds for the next 10 years or?
Right, and I'm sure Josh can address that too. When I was talking to Bryce I asked him about what improvements were required along that section with the bridge, and Josh may correct me or not, but he said they don't be required to install just the curb gutter and sidewalk there, not the actual road surface. So that was my understanding from Bryce, but you may have a different.
Well, so I was able to talk to Blake for a few minutes. I have a little more info on the timing of that bridge. It was funded to be built in 2019. We received funding for it. It was pulled back when COVID hit, so we lost that funding. The current plan is to design in 2030, construct that bridge and that road in 2031. That could move up if we get funding again for it. So I just had a little more info on the timing of that I wanted to share. So.
Thank you. Was your question answered, Daryl?
Yeah, you know what, I don't know if I care for that as an answer, but I understand it. So money set aside, how did the money get calculated if you don't know the grades for the roads or the improvements that are going in there?
Sure, there's probably a standard cost per
I
foot.
understand the
I'm not
lineal
sure.
foot of curb and gutter.
Yeah.
I understand how much oil goes down, how much curb and gutter, but the grading is a variable is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the grading is a variable. I don't think we can account for that. We would have his engineer prepare an estimate for us on that, but grading would be an unknown.
Yeah, well, the money we receive today is not going to be the money that we have in 2030.
We
so.
found that out the hard way the last couple of
It's
years.
just that I've seen this around the city before, unfinished projects they're just not going to be finished in the near future. So I
I
hate to leave
do
another
think
one.
at least from the applicant's perspective, all we can do is take it from market value today, and then the city council will make the decision on where the funds are spent. Unfortunately, we can't really determine that from this side. That's the tough part, Daryl.
Yeah, well, as I said, I understand it.
Yeah.
Is that something we can eliminate from the conditions, though?
Is the fee in lieu? Oh, no, we don't want to eliminate it, as we do want the funds to come into the city, even if it's not used for this specific project at this time.
Well, and I wonder if, due to the kind of the timeline that he stated, 9 years from today, if you could do the fee in lieu with that in mind, that 9 years from now, with your standard
No,
appreciation.
because they can pay fair market value for today for that project, not for 9 years from now. That's not fair to them. But let's have the applicant come up, and then we'll have discussion after the applicant has a chance to talk.
Sorry.
If you want to just state your name.
My name is Adnan Afridi. I don't really have any questions, so
No
this
additional
is new to me. I
information?
don't know, so I've never done this.
That's
so.
okay.
We
That
bought
is
the land,
okay.
we're developing it to build a house, so
Sounds great. Any questions for the applicant then? It looks like no questions at this time. If you want to have a seat. This is on for a public hearing, so I will open that up though. So I'll open the public hearing at this time. Seeing no additional comments, we'll close the public hearing at this time. Now, we'll turn to Planning Commission for additional discussion and/or a motion to be made.
My only thought where it looked like you needed more retention is maybe looking at the possibility of making a swell where there's like the park strip on the inner side of the cul-de-sac.
And can we go to the conditions of this one? Because I think there was something in there that talked about the condition of that part. And it's item 5, pond to be redesigned to retain the 80th percentile storm event and detain the 100-year storm event. So we do have in there as one of the recommendations that they do fix that, which I think
They could do it.
I think staff made pretty clear that they can adjust it and still meet the requirements of the 4 lots.
Yeah. I was just thinking they could maybe do a swell in the park strip if they didn't want to cut down on that lot. As just an idea.
Yeah.
I guess that's something they could consider and work with the applicant on. City
Yeah.
staff on. Yeah.
Any other additional questions, discussion for this one?
Does this property back against Rose Creek? Do we know?
It does. Yeah.
Does the city have a living plan, some sort of dynamic plan for Rose Creek? I mean, is it going to have a trail on it? Is it
It has a trail.
on, right here?
Yeah,
On the north side has a
bottom
horse
of-
trail.
Lot 4, it has a fully paved
Okay.
trail at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only question I did have is because it looks like on the very bottom, and you can't see it in this picture with what I'm talking about, but if you go to, what page? Page 59 of our packet, it sort of lays out this area, but underneath it, was that the same plot of land? It looks like it has a pretty big slope on that portion of it.
That whole backside is complete slope.
Is that why
I
it
look-
wasn't included?
In our packet, I look
Or-
at page
Yeah, I'm looking at the packet.
37.
I was kind of wondering how Lot 4 will sit, because a lot of that back area is hillside, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like most of the hillside's actually just barely outside of it. But it also looks like, is that the city's land? Is that? It's owned by the city, okay. Okay. Because it looked like it used to be part of this at some point. Okay. All right. I don't have any additional questions. Are there additional questions for this item?
No, I'm excited for the larger lots. I think that it will fit in that neighborhood very well.
Then I'll look for a motion to be made.
Sorry, I'm getting,
So there's 7 recommendations.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.2 with staff 7 recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Heather, second by Brody. We'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Thank you for your time. We'll move on to item 4.3, which is a consideration of approval of the detention pond landscaping for Anthem 8th. We'll look at city staff.
All right, good evening. So this is kind of a wrap-up of the Anthem 8th commercial amendment subdivision. Again, taking place just up in the north of the city where the Anthem commercial development is. We looked at this back in June of this year, and the plat was approved. One condition was that the Planning Commission wanted to see the landscaping plan once it was revised and provided back. That could have been handled in just in a work session meeting. However, the applicant has requested a waiver of strict compliance for the reduction of the required amount of trees for this property. So that's why it came back to the commission in a public meeting. So this is in consideration of parcel A, where they have their detention basin. Again, here's the approved plat. You can see kind of on the bottom where parcel A is located. There's another application tonight for Slackwater Restaurant, which will be on lot 803, which is the most adjacent to this lot now. This is the provided landscaping plan that we have. They have updated this since our reports have gone out. So it shows the area that is highly sloped will be planted in prairie grass, and then this area that's highlighted in red, that is flatter, so to speak, and will include the applicant's proposed 6 trees. The approximate area of that is 5,685 square feet. Based off of that, staff's recommendation was to include 5 additional trees, which would bring that total up to 11 trees. So this is the standard to approve a waiver of strict compliance. We spoke about this a little bit in the meeting before this, just in terms of how it impacts adjacent properties, Is it an appropriate use? Is it reasonable, or is it unnecessary to require the standards? Those kinds of issues. That being said, staff has requested that the applicant plant an additional 5 trees in the area. I know there was a discussion in the pre-meeting that you're welcome to bring up as well, but that is our application, or our recommendation is for approval for the waiver that they're requesting. So, any questions for me?
Not a question, but something I'd like on the record in this meeting. So in our typical scenarios, we have sort of, I guess, an equation on determining how many trees go in a commercial or in a property like this. Can you go through how that works just so before I give my recommendation, which is a little bit different than what this is?
Sure. So this is in a C2 zone. Typically, for when a C2 property develops, we don't have a minimum square footage for a C2 zone or C2 property, so it could be anything from 1/10 of an acre all the way up to 20 acres. But whenever a C2 property develops, the requirement is that 15% of that property be landscaped. In the pre-meeting, we did calculate that for this property, and based off of those calculations, it would require 12 trees. So and one additional than staff is recommending.
And so just with that being said, that sort of leaned towards where I was. I don't think it's appropriate for 43 trees, but I did look at it from the perspective of I do think the minimum standard of the 12 is sort of more in line with what should happen. And so that's why I wanted to bring that up here, because we did talk about it in the pre-meeting. But any questions for Clint?
Yeah, I have a question. So that 15% is part of this recommendation, or I guess my question is, when the other areas of this development were approved, were they counting on using that parcel A as part of their 15% of some of these other parcels?
No, the percentage is based off of the individual parcel.
Okay, so all the other parcels have the 15%
They'll have
minimum.
to stand on their own with the 15%.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Forrest.
But all those other parcels are probably using this detention facility, right? They're
More than likely, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their storm drains coming
Yep,
out here.
that was the design.
Just want to make that clear.
Good question.
Any other questions for Clint?
The applicant is here, so
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to.
I'll have him come up in a second.
Okay.
All right. If the applicant's here and they'd like to come up, and just state your name and anything in addition you'd like to share.
Mike Maddox, and I'm fine with 12 trees. It was the 43 that I couldn't fit in there. You know, in the bottom of the pond, on the side of the pond. So
Yeah, it would have been a beautiful forest.
yeah, and it would have clogged up all the drains and. Yeah.
So, okay, anything in addition you'd like to share?
No, but
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
but Slackwater's right there. Their landscape butts right into us, and we're happy to have them. And we've tied in all of our trees and colors with their landscape.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the Planning Commission?
Just a quick one. So do these trees help shade Slackwater as well? Or are they far enough away that?
Well, I mean, they're just trees. As they grow, if they grow taller in the sense on the south, it would shade them. But you know, most of the trees, as you can see, is on the west side of the pond.
Okay.
So,
Okay, yeah.
okay.
Any other questions? All right, I'll let you have a seat.
Okay,
Thank you.
I wanted to ask Michael what his opinion is on this.
This is not a project that I actually have reviewed, so I apologize. Specifically about the tree issue?
I mean, we're just cutting it back so much, and I just wanted to see if you had a different perspective on how we could make this beautiful while not having 40 trees.
And I've heard our landscape architect
Yeah.
making some comments about how some of our standards are pushing trees in areas that seem to not make sense. But yeah, we probably need to revisit some of these standards because we're hearing from her that it's not always working very well.
Okay, thank you.
I have to appreciate the comment too that was made about, if we had so many trees in here, it would cause a lot of issues with clogging of the drains and it would impact.
With the function of it.
With the function as a detention pond in the fall and to be able to maintain and get in and clean out the leaves and things like that. I do see that point as well. I just wanted to, I appreciate that comment also.
But does this detention pond actually empty into a sewer system, or is it literally?
Well, it's not even that. It's if you clog up the system here, if you're getting the leaves right here clogging up this, now your pond's filling up and you're gonna have issues.
Yeah, it's not just the
It's not
trees.
just
it's
downstream of
it's
here.
the leaves
It's-
falling as well every fall,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. But then, yeah, it could, flow downhill.
Yeah.
I'm personally, I'm in the justification of the 12 trees. I think that's a good,
I think that meets our
Should
requirement
meet
in
the
a
requirement.
typical
Yeah.
thing like this, because if they didn't have the detention pond within their area and it was in one of the other commercials, that's what they would have been required.
that's correct.
And so I think, from that perspective, I think it's a fair assessment of what should be put in minimum.
That's my opinion as well.
We'll look for a motion unless there's further discussion then.
Somebody go for it.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to do it? Go for it.
Let's see, I'll make a motion to approve item 4.3 with a modification to the one recommendation of the applicant install additional 5 trees in the area. As shown, currently includes, and let's see.
Well, they had 5. They had 5
So
originally.
they had 5 originally, and I'm making a modification to have 12, a total of 12 trees.
Road 12.
I'll second.
Motion made by Brody, a second by Heather, and we'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Daryl?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, Heather, if that were park strip trees, I would have an opinion on that.
We'll move on to item 4.4 now. A consideration of a conditional use for Slackwater Pizzeria, and we'll look at Shelton City staff.
All right. So, as you mentioned, this is for Slackwater. It's located in the Anthem Commercial District. The area here is Zone C2. As Clint mentioned here, this is going to be in the Eighth Amendment subdivision of Anthem Commercial. And as we heard previously, this plat has not been recorded yet due to that we were holding on the approval. The approval entailed a landscaping plan was agreed upon for the detention pond. So as you're seeing this, it's just, the plat has not been recorded, but that's the location where it's going. And as one of the recommendations of approval is that this, they can't submit a building permit until the plat has been recorded. So what they're proposing is a 7,200 square foot building, has exterior dining. They are providing 101 stalls. Per their building size, they're only required to provide 89. So they are meeting that requirement, those requirements. Site access is going to be off Denali. It will be provided through lots 801 and 804. Anthem Commercial does have a shared parking and shared access agreement over the entire development. They are providing right-of-way access from the building as well as bicycle parking. The elevations, per the MDA, Anthem Commercial reviews and approves all their building designs. They did approve these designs as shown here. The building consists of brick, metal siding, overhead doors, and some storefront. The back elevations, you can see there's some covered dining for the outdoor dining. It appears to all be covered. As far as requirements or regulations, they do meet all zoning ordinances. They do meet the conditional use standards, engineering standards, and the commercial design standards. So what staff does recommend approval with these following recommendations. And I apologize, I didn't include the landscape plan in this presentation, but it should have been in the staff report. And they do meet that 15% landscaping requirement.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, does this meet the required distance from residential units for establishments that do alcohol?
So based on that, so it has to be like community residents, community spaces, I guess is how they're defined. So it's 600 feet, I believe is per DABC, the requirements. So there's no, I guess the question is, we did have this concern regarding the trail, as we have defined trails as a park.
Right.
And a park are considered community spaces, but actually in our ordinance, under on-premise service of alcohol, we exclude trails as a public, as a public area, as a community space.
It's community spaces, not residentials.
Right.
Okay.
I do have a question because it seems a little out of the ordinary. Why are they proposing 101 parking stalls when they're only required 89?
That I'm uncertain about.
We'll ask them.
Okay.
Have you ever tried to go to Redemption Bar and Grill?
That's our assumption is like,
Yeah,
this
it
type
looks
of
like they have good
establishment, they're probably
pizza.
better off with a little more parking.
That might be it.
Them with less
Okay.
parking.
All right. If there's no other questions for staff, we'll let the applicant come up if they'd like to come up, state their name, and just any additional information. It looks like you got the call. I saw the nod saying you go up.
I think my name's on it, so I had to.
There you go.
I had to bite the bullet. My name's Justin Gum,
Thank you.
and I'm the primary owner. I own 95%. Blake owns 5% of it. So
Awesome.
yeah. I don't have any questions. That landscaping for the retention pond, our landscaper did both of them, so we're good with that. So.
Okay. I guess I'll ask you the same question. Why you're proposing more stalls than you're required?
We wanted more.
There you go.
So, I mean, you know, it's after seeing how the parking situation is in Sandy and Ogden for that matter, and I guess, it's just, we tend to attract a lot of cars, so.
That's all right.
That's good.
I'm good with it.
It's kind of,
If that's the reason why, I'm good with
Because
it.
we need them.
So.
yeah.
So, any questions for the applicant?
No.
Well, we appreciate.
We are a restaurant too, just so everybody, like everyone, we're not like a bar.
Yeah.
We are a restaurant. We're not a, so we are.
I'm guessing you at least have pizza. It says pizzeria.
I think, yeah, 70% we sell. So.
There you go. If there's no questions for the applicant, I'll let you have a seat then.
Thank you.
This might be too easy. All right, if there's any other discussion or a motion be made at this time.
Looks like it meets the MDA.
Yeah.
Parking's good.
Yeah, it seems to fit fine.
Be a good amenity, good addition to the community, so, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.4 with staff's 6 recommendations.
Motion made by Heather.
Second.
One sec. Do we need to add that comment about it? Or does it,
Oh, which comment?
there was the comment about having the 15% open space, but I guess we don't need to change that.
That's a part of the requirement.
That's a part of it.
That's
and it
already
meets
part
it,
of it.
So we
Yeah,
don't need to.
yeah, that's just a requirement.
All
So.
right, perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
So motion by Heather and,
Second by Forrest.
did I hear you, Forrest? Yeah, second
second.
by Forrest. Then we'll call for a vote. Daryl?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes,
And Brody?
Yes to that.
Well, welcome to our community.
yeah, thank you.
So we'll now look at item 5, if there's any additional comments by the Planning Commission.
Of course I have one. So
Why did I look at Heather? That's weird.
he made eye contact, I'm sorry. So in 2019, 2020, Michael Malloy donated a free little library, and I'm finally getting it established. But I wanted to share something that was very positive because it's having a great impact. So, you know, I got to share an experience today, and I said, you know, I was involved with the free little library, and I was talking to someone at my work, and she said, that's amazing, let's do them, you know, company-wide. So we're gonna build like 10 of them and donate them, you know, throughout Salt Lake County. But I just wanted to say thank you to Michael And, thank you for your buy-in to our community. I appreciate that, so thanks.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Very cool.
Congratulations to your workplace.
Yeah.
That's great.
Very, very cool. Thank you, Heather, for sharing that. Any other comments? All right, then, future meetings. Next city council meeting will be October 12th, 2022. Next planning commission meeting, October 20th. And next city council meeting after that will be October 26th. We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We'll let Adam or Andy take that, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Adam
good
would
night.
have done it too. It would have been Adam,
Yeah.
so.